Hi, I'm Becky Wood, and I'm here to do an Ahsoka makeup tutorial today. My Instagram is Ahsoka Live, and right now I'm putting on some primer. I have cleaned and washed and exfoliated my face. That last step is very important. Exfoliating makes this work a little better, and I'm putting just a tiny bit of primer. This is Lancome La Base Pro. You can use whatever works for you. You're going to need 2 bowls, one for blending and one for water. If you are using this water-based makeup, which is what I use, Mayron, this is Foxy and this is Orange. There are other colors that work as well. You really just need to find out what works with your skin tone and your desired shade. I also use Ben Nye for shading. This stuff goes on top just fine and it blends just fine. It is, and you don't use water with this one. So another thing I use is Mel Products. It's really gross looking, but this is for underneath appliances, so I think it's latex based. This was custom blended for me. It's got some pink in there and orange and some brown, but this is hit or miss. It stays on quite nicely if I get it on correctly. If I try to blend, it comes right off again in patches, so that's been a journey. And if you want to go alcohol-based, this is Tempdew Dura Pro in Coral Adjuster. This I do not use anymore for my own reasons, but if you like airbrushing, that's a good one to go with. So I'm going to do the longer, more difficult version today. The shorter, easier one is to get some stencils that fit your face and print them out on sticky paper, stick them to your face and put the orange around it. And then when you take them off, you can do the white. I'm not going to do that today. And another even faster version is they are silicone markings and I just glue them on my face. That's very fast, and you can find those on Etsy from various people. Today I'm going to use things that you might have on hand just so you can get started with becoming Ahsoka. Now, a couple things if you want to become Ahsoka. A few little hints. Most of her costumes, if not all of them, have a mock turtleneck. You want to make sure that you make it with a completely separating zipper in the back. Because I actually have 2 dresses that do not have a separating zipper, and what that means is I have to put the costume on before I put the makeup on. I have to move it out of the way and let the makeup dry, and I also yeah, it's really difficult. You can't put the headpiece on before this, obviously, and you also can't put this on after your makeup or you'll smear everything. So, you know, it still works. I use these for Zoom troops where I don't have to paint my back. But lesson learned, I basically made all the mistakes so that you don't have to. So first I start, even if I'm using the silicone brows, I first start with covering my brows. And I'm using Elmer's glue, just this purple school glue stick. And I'm gonna be doing it faster today, so it might not be perfect. But you wanna just spread your eyebrow up and flat. And if you can, get this stuff off your skin because it will get the glue off the skin around the brow because it will make sort of ridges. And unless you're putting a silicone brow over the top, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. The reason I cover my brows when I use silicone is that I'm paranoid about prosade and I don't want to rip my brows off. So it just protects it a little bit. I don't know. So I'm going to take a stiff brush now, fairly stiff, and take some pressed powder. This is just Ben Nye. And I just really push it into the brow. And don't worry about using a lot of powder and having it get everywhere. Use a lot of powder because it will, the excess just comes off. Now, I don't know if you can see, but the brow is still sticking up here, and I don't want that. So I'm using another layer of glue because not only covering the color, covering the brow itself. Definitely the silicone markings are faster than this, but this tends to look more like Ahsoka, honestly, because she doesn't have raised markings. I love them, but if you want to do the work, and it's worth learning in case you go to a convention or go somewhere where you don't have everything. I once went to a book conference and they had a costume contest and I went as Ahsoka, but I did some white markings and I just did bronzer and orangey brownie eyeshadow everywhere and made it work. It was fun. And did I have school glue in my bag? I can't remember. Did I really have school glue with me? Possibly. Oh yeah, because I knew I was going to do Ahsoka. I brought my costume and all. Okay. I do this extra step because my brows are dark. I do not do this when I use silicone. But this is a really thick concealer. It's just cheap from e.l.f. Cosmetics. And it helps. Okay, put too much on. That's all right. There we have it. Now I go back over with powder once again and they should be gone pretty much. This is just Ben Nye neutral set powder. You can use any loose powder. It has to be loose because you need to be able to pile it on there. And this is not perfect, but this one's a little better. So you actually, when you do this, especially the morning before a troop, in your early days of trooping, you want to leave enough time so you don't have to panic if you need to redo something. My very first few troops, I was getting up at 4 a.m. just to leave plenty of time. Okay. Now I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to try to freehand these. This is the Clone Wars markings. They're different for every show, as you probably know. Clone Wars is super simple. We've got straight up from the brow, and then a triangle shape here. And getting them completely symmetrical is the challenge. Our faces are not symmetrical, so yes, I have spent entire troops doing like this. Because virtual troops, because my face wasn't symmetrical, but you know what? No one cares. There are lots of super professional makeup tutorials on YouTube, and this is not one of them. This is the just relax tutorial for all my beginning Ahsokas out there. More or less this, okay? And you're gonna have these little diamonds up here. And these are gonna get covered by your headpiece. Wow, that's hard to do on the phone. These are gonna get covered by your headpiece, and be warned that if you're using water-based makeup, they will smear unless your headpiece is really solid, which I'll talk about later. So the glue is making this a little rough for the pencil. But as long as you have an indication of the line, you should be just fine. Now I want to do the white first, because I don't want my orange to smear it. I'm switching pencils because my pencil went weird. So Ahsoka Clone Wars. Has these lovely little markings. They're not as complicated as Rebels. And they bracket basically cheekbones and your mouth. And I've seen these, you know, you can do them all kinds of different sizes. It's just got to work for your own face. But if you use a stencil that someone else made, or if you use silicone, it's already going to be a predetermined shape, but you can trim the silicone. You can trim them both. I didn't because whatever. It was fine. The thing about Ahsoka is it's possible to get too perfectionistic with it. It's possible to get way too uptight and stressed about the symmetrical nature of her markings and just everything. Once you put on the body makeup and a costume, there's a lot of moving parts here to worry about. And so the most important thing to learn is that the spirit of the thing is what matters. When you're trooping as Ahsoka, your heart matters, not your markings. The joy that you can bring to it really, really makes a difference for all the kids out there and the people that you're helping. And if you're a cosplayer and you're doing this to take beautiful photos, well, there's Photoshop. There's Photoshop. So don't get stressed with your makeup. Every single time I troop, I have got notes. I actually take notes. Costume notes, makeup notes, not so much interaction notes because I've done that for many years with Disney, but just stuff to do better next time. Or something I forgot. Sometimes, like, I used to forget pieces of costume, I mean, the contact lenses, the necklace, you know, all the little pieces. That's kind of second nature by now. I won't be doing the contact lenses today because they became crispy critters. I haven't used them in a year due to you know what. 2020. Yeah, I didn't check on my lenses and they dried out, so I will be having to replace those guys. Probably best to replace them anyway. Contact lenses are great fun if you can do them safely. They do make the character, they kind of make her really recognizable. I think that's what Rosario Dawson said. When the moment she put the lenses on, she went, oh, there she is. I just love her. So her makeup is more subtle. Luckily, that'll be fun for those of us who are going to do that costume. I think it'll be a lot of fun to have those much more subtle markings. Like these are like a line. It's so pretty. Clone Wars is the first, and she is a cartoon. So we want these markings to be very crisp lines. I use this water-based. I don't use the Ben Nye because for some reason it just didn't work for me. The water-based is really easy to get a very clear line. And I'm having trouble doing that into the phone. So Ahsoka's brows are actually really straight. I didn't do that this time. I kind of followed my own brow. So here's where I can show you the way you can fix if you've got some mess happening here where it doesn't quite match up. I'll show you a little way to fix that. Just keep going. Just keep going. Do not panic. Don't forget your towel and don't panic. And do not take off your makeup and start again. For the love of Yoda, don't do that. My first troop, I was just in this incredible panic. And someone was there that I had worked with at Disneyland. I was Snow White and he was Baloo. He just happened to be there at my first troop. And I was just in a panic because my makeup wasn't perfect. And he went, "This isn't Disneyland. You're okay. Okay. This isn't Disneyland. You are not going to be fired if your makeup isn't perfect." That's not true. They don't fire you. They were very kind to me, but no. They all made sure to tell me, we are volunteers. We're having fun. We're playing with the kids. The important thing right now, that day was like an Alzheimer's walk at the baseball stadium. And they were like, the very important thing, it's not how straight your lines are. It's going out there and having a blast with the families and taking pictures with people. They are not going to be looking at, staring at your face. And that's my little pep talk for my fellow snipses out there. I'm going to do false lashes. Now, not everybody does this. She does if you watch Clone Wars. She has these huge eyes. She is a cartoon. But she doesn't necessarily have huge lashes. So you can go many ways with this. You don't have to do what they call beauty makeup. I do it because she's a cartoon. And because it's fun. A trick to false lashes is don't panic. Really, don't panic and let it dry for a while. Put a thin line of glue and let it dry. And trim these to fit your eyes. Don't try to cram the whole long thing on there unless you have really big eyes. I do not. I have my grandmother's Irish Welsh eyes, and I love them and I love her, but they're small. So I trim my lashes. That's all. Don't panic. I have panicked many, many years ago when I was putting these on for stage and didn't let it dry, overdid the glue, and glued my eye together. It was really funny for everybody except me. And at that time, I put them on after I did all my makeup, so it was a mess. This is why some people call me Lucy. I love Lucy. I don't care. I'd rather laugh than be perfect. So there you go. Lashes. They're still drying, so I'm not going to do anything crazy. Now let's talk about body makeup. I use Airy Joe tanning makeup it's basically for Latin dancers. Once you put it on your body, let it dry. Let it dry for like an hour, and then it won't budge. I put it on my hands pretty much last thing, and I don't touch anything. I do use a cup with a straw so I don't mess myself up. And let it dry for quite some time. And if you don't, it will smear, but if you do, this stuff is amazing. It lasts forever. So you keep blending, you keep blending. This is not going to be perfect today. So this is, you use a tiny, tiny bit because it's very, 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 very intense. Use a tiny bit and blend the heck out of it. Because this is just your base, and what this does is it's not going to come off. Congratulations, you have tattooed your face. Just kidding. It won't come off. When you're done trooping, what you do for this and for the Pros-Aid is you smear coconut oil all over your face. I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you how dark this is. If you take what might be a normal amount of base, ooh, it's intense. So if you do this accidentally, which you will, I mean you will, because we assume it's like base, just blend it and use the rest somewhere else. And it'll be patchy, but keep blending. And the reason I exfoliate, and the reason that's a super important step, is that it will be patchy if you don't. It does not, however, need to be perfect because we have another step. Ahsoka's great fun when you can take your time. I should do a whole nother tutorial for fast Ahsoka. For days when you're like, you've got a troop that starts an hour away at 8 a.m. and you don't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Fast Ahsoka. Quick Ahsoka. So these brows are weird, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to try using this stuff we've just been using. I don't know how this will go, but normally I would use shadow because you kind of want to make a shadow under there anyway because it looks cool. But thought I'd just try this. The only thing weird about this stuff is that it's hard to blend. And it can make weird little patches that you kind of have to buff. But again, I have had a patchy Ahsoka. Just put a bunch of powder over the top and, you know, and they told me just, you know what, smile. Go out there and smile and let the kids hold your lightsabers and duel with them, and they don't, they're not criticizing your makeup. So this works okay. Just to clean up the shape, you can take a darker shade once this is dry. Really good for this would be the Ben Nye, actually would be better. So yeah, see how that top part isn't even? I could come back in. In fact, I will since I'm going over this anyway. So you've got your base that's not gonna smear off. And that's especially important for parades in the rain, for sweaty, hot day troops, things like that. Or I suppose for conventions where you want to hug people or you want to be there all day long and not think about your stupid face. Stupid face? No, your wonderful face. Becky, come on. So now I'm going back over this with orange. And I use water again. I'm starting with a very light base just to blend it in. So you want to use lots of water. Don't get super cakey with this or it is orange. And you can, again, you choose your own adventure with Ahsoka because she's a cartoon. And according to the lighting, she's, you know, she's really orange sometimes. We have all different there's a group called Team Tano. And they share makeup tips and they share resources, and you know, we have all different preferred shades of Ahsoka. So I used to be primarily Foxy. That's what I did all the time. Love it. But lately I'm just moving more toward this. No particular reason. It's just, I think it's easier to blend it with my personal skin tone. That cat right there, by the way, she's sleeping right there. Her name is Ahsoka. That's my little Ahsoka Lucille Tano. And she has the name Lucille because Ahsoka and I share the trait of being unintentionally ridiculous sometimes. You know. And we take after Lucille Ball, so may as well love it. May as well embrace it. I'm not doing, did I mention I'm not doing contacts today? My eyes are green. And that's okay. It's actually not even required. If you're going for approval with the Rebel Legion, the contacts are not required because, you know, it can be pricey to do that safely. And they do try to keep things accessible for people. Oh gosh. I don't know how people do this into their phone. It's kind of like incredible skill. But I think you can kind of see I'm wanting to come in here with the brush. See, the orange isn't really thick enough to cover that. I can make it thicker and carefully, and carefully cover to trim down the markings. It's gonna get dicey if I keep going over and over it. But just to show you how to do it, you could even take Ben Nye and actually have an easier time. I don't know why I didn't do that. But you see, it's trimming it down. Her eyebrows are super straight and then they go down. you've let your body makeup set, your face now is going to be more light orange than your body. So what I do is I go through with the orange and I just highlight like my shoulders and forearm, like right here on my forearm. Hey, Ahsoka, watch. And blend it in. Because our eyes fool us. Ahsoka's all different shades. And if you have a highlight that matches your face, you're good. Our eyes fill in the rest. Okay, I'm gonna call that done for this tutorial. Don't ever do what I just did. Don't leave your brushes sitting in the water. It's bad for them. Don't do what I did. See, I make all mistakes so that you don't have to. And I'm kind of like the clown they send into the dungeon before them to trip off all the traps. A rodeo clown, whatever, I'm mixing my metaphors. So now I take this gold highlight. This is dual finish highlighter from Lancome. It's really expensive. You do not have to get this. Just get some gold powder if you want. If you don't. Most people don't do this, but I super love to have that gleam of highlight on my Ahsoka. Some people put a little line here to make their nose look like a butt. I'll show you what they do. I don't do it because I already have a button nose. Little tiny nose, like I don't have a nose. They'll put a line right here. And then blend it, of course, to give her that little round nose. I usually skip that part because I don't have a nose. I put a little gold highlight here on top of my mouth because I do not have the same super full lips that Ahsoka does. And usually for troops, I use lip sense because it stays on forever and I don't want to think about my makeup while I'm trooping. And that would be good for a convention as well. Anything all day or whatever. Just things that stay on forever. Use a darker shade than you're used to. Or unless, depending on your skin tone, if you're going lighter for Ahsoka, use something lighter. You want to blend it with the makeup, not with your usual street makeup. For me, I had to go way, way darker than I usually do. And it took me a while to find a shade that worked. But things like purple, burgundy, if you're doing Mortis, even dark blue or black. I use black for Mortis Ahsoka, which, if you don't know who she is, she's when Ahsoka was on the planet Mortis. It's one episode, and she was possessed by the dark side. And she's so cool. She basically finally says all the things to Anakin that she's kind of repressed. I could do a whole psychological analysis of Mortis, but this is supposed to be a makeup tutorial. So for eyeshadow, same thing. I use a berry shade that I normally wouldn't. It's very, very dark. This is Lancome again, but you don't have to, you know, anything that's... I started out trying to use just browns that were dark for me, and they didn't even show up. So You're going to have to experiment with what works for your skin tone, your Ahsoka skin tone. Like finding your own inner Ahsoka. It should be a whole self-love retreat. A coaching retreat. Find your inner Ahsoka. If I held that, do you guys want to do it? Gender neutral, everybody can do it. Everyone has an inner Snips. Everyone. So I'm shading a little more under here. Oh, I just got a weird frog in my throat. Shading under there just to give them a bit more awesomeness. What else? Eyeliner, because we are a cartoon. You know what? I just use brown. Use whatever. Sometimes I've used kind of a blue because I was sad that I didn't have my contact lenses, but it's okay. The kids don't care. They're so happy when you're there. Liquid liner. All of this is extra, so I should do another one that's fast. This stuff is just extra little luxuries. You can just do mascara, call it a day, or you can even, some Ahsokas have gone just plain old, just the markings and the orange, and they're done. It's all valid. Right. So let's talk about the headpiece. Now, I'm not going to do a full thing on this because it would take too long. But this wonderful piece is by Wretched Hive Creations. And it's so incredible. I tuck my hair in the back, leku. And basically what I do is I rest the piece on this thick headband I have here. And I will paint Prosade. This is the most stressful part of the whole thing. I'll paint Prosade all around my face. And I have to let it dry. I sit here and like stress out. Let it dry. I should meditate. And then when it's dry enough, I place it, because the thing with Prosade is once you've placed the piece, you can't move it again. Or everything has to be redone. You can't do like I'm just doing right now and adjust. So you really have to figure out how you want it to sit. And then, you know what? Once it's there, just accept it. I've done entire droops with this crooked, and I just grin and bear it, just do side poses, like Snips tilts her head a lot. Hi, baby girl, she's yawning. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do for today. And if you want other tutorials, let us know, and I'll do another one. May the Force be with you. most of all, have fun.